Today on Up Front, a huge spike in homicides in Milwaukee. Next, Police Chief Ed Flynn on what's driving the increase and why he's calling out state lawmakers and judges. Then U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, why he says the president lost the negotiation with Iran before it even started. And the latest Marquette Law School poll, does Johnson face an uphill battle in a rematch against Russ Feingold?
Covering the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Up Front with Mike Goucher.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Up Front. The numbers are troubling. We are seeing a dramatic spike in deadly crime in Milwaukee. Homicides this year up about 190% over last year. The city has seen at least 43 homicides in 2015, more than half a dozen last week alone. Perhaps most shocking, a driver who was shot to death when he got out of his vehicle to check on a little boy he had struck when the boy darted into the street. The mayor called the motorist's death an assassination. Police Chief Ed Flynn reiterated a call for tougher gun laws, saying, quote, "Our laws need teeth, and we need legislators with a spine." Chief Flynn joins us now on Up Front. Chief, it's good to have you back on the program.
Good morning.
Well, let's begin with what's happening in Milwaukee. You and I both know that a few years ago we were seeing the lowest homicide numbers in the city that we'd seen since the early 80s. This year, something changed. Why are we seeing this spike in homicides?
It's a remarkable turnaround. In the last 7 years, we've achieved 3 of the lowest homicide totals in more than 25 years. And that was against the backdrop of generally lowered crime. Starting in December of this year, we saw a significant spike. We had 14 homicides in 1 month, and it completely, although we produced an overall low number, it was a significant negative trend that carried right over into January, February, and March. Obviously, one of our challenges as a police department is to understand exactly what the dynamic is. And the most frustrating thing about this is there is no unitary phenomenon at work.
You can't point to a single factor.
We're not seeing, for example, 2 gangs fighting over drug turf. The biggest driver of homicide in Milwaukee is the category known as argument/fight. And that means 2 people with a grievance that either started some other time and they encounter each other, or starts in a tavern between 2 strangers or 2 semi-known people to each other, escalates into a confrontation in which, as one witness said, everybody goes to their cars. And in this neighborhood, you only go to your car for 2 things, to go home or to get your gun. We have had shootouts. We have had instances where we recorded on tape 4 and 5 people with their sidearms out shooting at each other. It's an extraordinary phenomenon. And it's overwhelmingly concentrated in our most disadvantaged neighborhoods, and is highly concentrated among people with criminal records.
You've tried to make the case that the city is safe, but would you not concede there are parts of the city that are simply not safe right now?
There are places in this city where American citizens are living like they live in another country. All right? Although the vast majority of the violence in this city is overwhelmingly concentrated among people with criminal records, those people have firearms and use them wantonly. And if you live in that neighborhood, there's a chance that these characters will shoot up the wrong house and your baby will get shot. There's a chance these characters will shoot up the wrong house and your child will get killed. There's a chance that you will get hit in a crossfire. It's happened just the other night. We have reckless people out there with significant system involvement who are undeterred by that involvement and have easy access to firearms.
So what do you need, Chief, to address this issue? I mean, you in the last week, and it's been controversial, you've called out everything from talk radio to the judiciary to the NRA to state lawmakers. What is it you want?
Well, listen, number one, I want everybody that watches this show to understand that the police department completely accepts its obligation to employ a thoughtful strategy animated by effective tactics to reduce street crime. And we have done that for 7 years. Our crime trends are down in every single category since the year before I got here, notwithstanding the recent increase in violence. But the challenge is this. The police department is but one component of the criminal justice system. And ironically, since we are the only component of the criminal justice system that produces data and holds itself accountable, no one else is accountable. Think about it. It's kind of ironic. Everybody else in the criminal justice system is elected but me. And yet no one in the criminal justice system has any data to run on, nor does it appear they're asked for it. The police department is hyper-scrutinized, and we're transparent, we'll take it. But what about everybody else's job? Why do I have so many criminal offenders out there with minor sentences in their jacket undeterred? Why are they fearless when it comes to getting caught with a gun? And so what I'm trying to say is there's other parts of the society that have a role to play. One is what's the rest of the system doing with their workload? Second, what are the tools the rest of the system has? And I'm asserting, as somebody who's been a police chief in 3 different states and a serving officer in 4, we've got the worst gun laws I've ever worked under. They're weak. They were dictated by the NRA for a special interest group, and everybody rolled over. And the problem I have here is trying to have that conversation runs me into the buzzsaw of agenda politics and talking points. We've got weak gun laws, and I want them tightened up so we can put bad guys in jail longer. That's all I want. Let's stop talking about other things. Let's talk about that. I can't go to a meeting of the Fire and Police Commission without 25 special pleaders in the ACLU talking about bad police, terrible police. Oh, they're doing too much police work. And yet none of them has a peep to say about the Holocaust of violent crime being inflicted on poor communities of color. Nothing to say. Here's my big challenge, Mike. And it's a challenge that afflicts my coppers because they try to stay motivated to do hard work. The political system right now is useless to those of us dealing with real urban problems. I'm convinced at this point in our history, the right wing could not care less how many young dead black men I have as long as they have unfettered access to high-quality firearms. And the left wing, from what I can tell, couldn't care less how many dead young black men I have as long as they're not unduly inconvenienced by the police as they go about their business. That's where we are. We're in the world driven of ideological politics, not problem solving, and the cops are in the middle. The community is demanding better policing for them and wondering why we can't do more. And the pseudo-leaders are attacking the police, saying they're doing too much.
Some people say that's hyperbole, the politics you describe. That's simply that people may disagree on how we address these issues, but it doesn't mean they don't care about it.
The people that care about it are the people that are living it. My point isn't, people try to accuse the community of not caring. The community cares. It's the community's kids that are getting shot. It's the community's kids that have to sleep in bathtubs. It's the community's kids trying to go to school safely and not get mean-mugged or jacked up by some gang member that lives in fear. No, they get it. What frustrates me is a number of characters out there who have discovered how easy it is to get on TV and form a constituency attacking the police and take a Dixie on the significant problems that are afflicting these communities intergenerationally and are resulting in basically less justice for poor people in those neighborhoods because the bad guys that are afflicting them and shooting them and stealing from them are not being deterred from carrying firearms and are not being properly supervised by the rest of the criminal justice system. But the bottom line is you cannot care about the level of violent death in the central cities of this America and not be madder than hell at the empty, vapid political discussion that surrounds it.
Milwaukee Police Chief Ed Flynn, we appreciate your time. Thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you.
A new poll shows Wisconsin Republican Senator Ron Johnson losing a rematch with Democrat Russ Feingold. Does he think his 2016 re-election bid will be an uphill battle? I'll be asking Senator Johnson when Up Front continues.
Up Front with Mike Goucher, brought to you by the American Transmission Company and the Wisconsin Corn Growers Association.